Good morning, Mzansi. I greet all of you. As always, most importantly, Babsara Ramaphosa, who is the president of my country, and each of you viewers. I want to thank you for tuning in, for your support and your contributions towards my channel. I'm so excited about this installment as I did some interviews with the public, you know, and it was very interesting. And I would like to share the views of the broader society with you guys regarding crime and the issues that we discuss here on Vuga Sizwe. Let's talk real talk. In my last installment, I spoke about the myth about once a criminal, always a criminal. And with that said, I want to make it clear to all of you on the outside that I do not seek your sympathy. I do not wish to garner sympathy for ex-offenders or for criminals. No, myself included. We are the ones that are supposed to sympathize with you for what you went through or are still going through. The purpose for my channel is for us to find common ground and to move forward in a positive way through this situation that we find ourselves in. Oftentimes, criminals are released back into society while the victims are still busy picking up the pieces and finding their feet after suffering many atrocities and damages, financial, emotional, physical. And I do sympathize with those of you that have went through that. So I do not take away from your pain, and I understand your stance that you have taken on your views about criminals and ex-offenders. I totally respect it, and I understand where you're coming from. But like I said, we have to find common ground in this. Because as it is, the rules and the laws of our country has been set up in such a way where we as society have to play a role in the reintegration of ex-offenders into society, whether we like it or not. Because how we treat ex-offenders when they come from prison will determine whether or not that person decides to re-offend and go back to prison. We can change that narrative by getting involved and being informed about actions that we need to take to avoid reoffending. That is one of the main purposes of my channel. You see, if you take the stance that reintegration should be the sole responsibility of the government, it would be very ignorant and it is totally not viable. Because our government at the moment sits with the backlog of providing proper housing and permanent jobs for normal citizens. So what more of a backlog will they have if now the reintegration of ex-offenders are also placed on their plate? Not unless when ex-offenders comes out, they will have to go and camp in the walls of government institutions there's no way that we can lay that on the shoulders of government. I feel as a society we expect the government to intervene when we've been offended or when a crime has been committed against us or our property. We expect the government to intervene and to deal with such individuals. And they do, by sending them to prison and rehabilitation programs and whatever the court decides. But then it's as if now the responsibility of reintegrating those offenders do not apply or is not a concern to the broader society, which in itself doesn't make sense, because it is to society where they come back to. And it's only society that can change the narrative of reoffending through the way in which they receive ex-offenders. Nothing I say here can bring back a loved one or change any situation that has happened in the past. But we can make and create a better tomorrow. As I've mentioned, I've done some interviews with various people from all walks of life, and I want to play that clip for you now, and then after that I'll give you a small comment on the contents of those interviews. I just want to know, what are your views on the situation of crime in our country?
So I don't have much I can say, but I say crime is too much here in South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then do you feel that they are doing enough to stop the crime in our country?
When I'm looking, I don't see anything that we are busy with doing for crime. Because it's high here in South Africa.
Okay, okay. And then, if you were given a chance, like if you were the police minister, what would you do differently to change the situation?
I can start with those who selling drugs. Because I see drugs, some of the they used to do crimes when they are drunk. So I can deal with them first.
Okay, okay, I understand. So you will try to eliminate drugs first.
Yeah, first.
That will be your first priority.
Yeah.
Nice, okay. And then just the last question. What do you think about ex-offenders, like people that was doing crime, they went to prison and now they come back outside? What do you think about that?
I don't have much to say for that, but I think our government, they are not serious, because some they are doing serious crime. Maybe you can arrest maybe 2 weeks, then second week you find him outside. See.
So do you think those people that are coming outside, what should be done about people that comes from prison? Do you think they shouldn't come out? Do you think they should stay in prison?
Yeah, stay in prison, because some they are done serious crime, then maybe he arrested today, following is outside. So you see the government don't do their job right.
Views on the situation of crime in our country?
Yeah, crime in South Africa is where it's just going out of hand. Now no one can control crime. And I
Okay.
don't know what you can do about it, because it's gone so bad. Yeah.
Do you feel that enough is being done to combat crime?
You know, sometimes you can't just, everything, you can't just expect the government to do for us. You know, crime starts from home. How we raise our own children. You see,
Yeah.
the security begins at home. We tell them to say, if you do this, it's wrong. If you do this, it's not about the government. Government are doing their best also. We can't
Yes.
be blaming government for everything.
Yes.
You see? It's also we parents, as parents, we need to be blamed when it comes to crime, because these are our children not doing these crimes. You see? Yeah.
Thank you. And then, if you were given the chance, what would you do differently to combat crime?
I think we need a lot of education, right from beginning from schools, to educate, and also parents to be. It's like, you see, the thing is, just when South Africa was independent, when Mandela was in power, South Africa was told to say we are independent, we are free, but there are certain things we are not taught about.
Yeah.
You know, to say we need to, this is our country, let's keep it this way. Let's
Yeah.
stop doing this and that, because we are destroying ourselves. It's
Yeah.
not that we are destroying anyone. We are not destroying a white man. A white man can go back to Europe today and live a good life.
Yeah.
We are destroying ourselves as
Yeah.
black people, you know. So that's what I believe in, to say, I think we will start from teaching from our schools,
Okay.
teaching from even parents, to, like, even when you do these rallies, when they have all these rallies, you have to talk about these things. How do we raise our children?
Yeah.
How we groom our children
Yeah.
to be responsible people, responsible citizens.
Yes.
That's what I believe in.
Thank you. And then lastly, how do you feel about ex-offenders, people that have been in prison, they did their time in prison and now they are placed back into society? How do you feel about that?
That one with people, like, some of them, they come back from these prisons changed, because there is a lot of ministering there. Churches are going to prisons. Churches are teaching people. Some people are coming out of prison, becoming pastors,
Yeah.
teaching the gospel.
Yeah.
And some of them also, they enjoy life in prison.
Yeah.
So they feel, if I make another crime, then I have to go back to prison because I get food.
Yeah.
Everything is there for free.
Yeah.
So it's not hard in prison. If prison was very hard, a lot of people would never want to go to prison. Prison in South Africa, they've got television, they've got home water, they even toy for home water. You know, they've got it all. So they're comfortable. Someone who knows to say, if I go home, I don't have food. Why can't you just stay in prison? They want 3 meals a day. You know, they get it. You see?
Yeah.
So I don't know about that one, because people come up, it depends. If you grew up in a home where it's homely,
Yeah.
whereby you made an offense and then you're in prison, you really want to go back home. Those are the people who humble themselves.
Yeah.
Some, they continue doing crime because they know they're comfortable in jail.
Yeah.
You see? Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about the crime in South Africa?
Ngicabanga wami ubugebengu bukhona ngokuthi umsebenzi inqabile. Ingakho kunabugebengu obuningi la eSouth Africa.
Okay. And then, do you feel that the government or the people in control, do you think that they are doing enough to stop crime?
No, abayenzi ngokusemandleni wabo. Ukube bebenza ngokusemandleni besingasho ukuthi baveza ama-peace job amancane ukuthi abantu bakwazi ukuthi basebenze ukuze kuphele bona ubugebengu lobo.
Okay. And then, if you were in charge, like if you were the minister or somebody in control, what would you do differently to lessen the crime?
Ngingazama ukuthi ngivule amathuba omsebenzi ukuthi abantu bakwazi ube babe nalokho abakubeka etafuleni mabengena kuphi endlini. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the last question. How do you feel about ex-offenders, like those people that goes to prison and then they come back into society? How do you feel about that?
Ngalokho ngasho ukuthi ngingafila free mangathiwa labo bantu ababuye prison babe nento mhlambe engabakhipha busy ukuthi bangacabangi, bangaphindi bacabanga ubugebengu lobu abasuka kubo lobu. Babe mhlambe nesikolonyana okanye indawo nyana ekuzabe ukuthi makuphela isikhathi ihlanganele khona bakhulunyiswe then zambafaka endleleni.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any message for the youth about crime?
Ngingaba nayo mama ukuthi empilweni kuyamele ukuthi uzizamele uzama ukuzihlanganisela ungazami ngendlela e-wrong ukuthi uze igcineke usutshontsha-ke mhlawumbe uma ukuthi into ungayitholi uyizame ukhulume nabantu ucela usizo uyabona leyo nto leyo ukuze sikwazi ukunciphisa ubugebengu.
Okay, so now that you've seen or heard some of the comments from the community, I'm sure that you'll agree with a lot of what they say there. Because as I said before, that is the general narrative in our country. You know, that criminals are not punished enough, that our laws are not harsh enough, and that things generally is just not pleasing to society when it comes to the criminal justice system. But allow me to elaborate a bit further on these stances. I would just also like to add that it was not easy to get people to speak about these issues. A lot of people didn't want to be interviewed and said they do not know enough on the subject. Others said that they just don't want to speak about it. And it was quite an eye-opener for me to see how ignorant society is in this very important matter. You see, in this narrative of government is not doing enough and crime is so high and all the woes surrounding this topic, I want to remind you, society, you the person watching here, I want to remind you of our history, where we come from. A history of rape, of torture, of subjugation, of inferiority, of being robbed, being murdered in mass. That was our history. And 30 years on into our democracy, I have to commend our justice system and our government for the progress that they have made. In every other country so far that I know of, I stand to be corrected, that I know of, where slavery and apartheid were abolished, the crime rate after that, it soared. Nothing into comparison with what is happening in South Africa. It totally soared. It exploded. So many people died and so many other crimes were committed when people were given their freedom. Given the scale on which crime is happening in our country, which I will leave for a later discussion in more detail, I really do commend all our law officers, our people in government, for the way in which they have protected our country, in keeping us from going through that same or down that same road that so many other countries have went through. And if you look at the devastation that was left behind as a result of apartheid and slavery, you will see that South Africa is in a much better position. So I just ask that you keep that in mind the next time you say that the government do not do anything, because I feel they do their best and they actually are doing exemplary compared to a whole lot of other countries that have been through more or less the same struggles. In 1992, when Mandela was set free, he came out, and after a series of discussions and meetings, they decided to set up the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where it was expected of us to forgive people on the sole basis that they have admitted to their crimes and they've acknowledged it, and we made peace with that. And many of those people were allowed back into our society, even after being the perpetrators of grievous and horrid offenses such as mass murder, poisoning, assassination, willful in many instances. And we forgave them, like I said, on the basis of they admitted to their crimes. They confessed. So now with our own people, we choose to take the stance of being judgmental and being biased and feeling that generally that those people shouldn't be given a chance. And it is just so unfair, in my view, that society can take that stance. I know that crime in our country is a big issue and it shouldn't be taken lightly, and that a whole lot of grievous crimes are committed on a daily basis. So I do not take away from that fact. But what I do want to touch on, what I do want to deal with, is the reintegration of ex-offenders into society and the role that we as a society play. Also, I need you to keep in mind, good people, that if your history was one of domination, where you were told that you are not good enough, where atrocities against you were the order of the day, and you are given freedom all of a sudden, it is not easy to adapt to that. It is not easy for everybody to say, I forgive you because you admitted to what you did to me. The same way in which society wants to see prisoners and criminals paying for their actions, in the same way many victims did not get that closure. And to deal with that in a constructive way whereby you do not offend another person is not easy. I'm not making excuses for criminals, no. I'm not justifying wrong actions on the part of criminals. But we do really need to deal with where it comes from for us to be able to move forward. So now we've come to the end of this installment, and I just want to thank everybody that have taken the time out to watch this video and for your participation. I thank you so very much, and I ask please that you share this video, as I know that it will make a difference somewhere to someone. And I also ask you to comment in the comment section and tell me your feelings and your views, and also to like and subscribe to my video. Thank you so very much, and God bless.